Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. For today's lesson, the title is Informal Science Learning. We know that formal learning began in the primary school. So starting from year 1 to year 6, the pupils in the primary school, they have learned science, yeah? Even they have learned it in the kindergarten, but the formal science learning started when they are year 1. Okay, and in formal science learning, the students have a structured and organized curriculum. Okay, the SKP science, yeah, year 1 to year 6, or the SKP from 1 to form 5. So in the curriculum, there is a stated learning objective and learning outcomes, where they call it learning standards. Okay, and after that there is assessment, where the students have to take for exam or test, yeah, and they are being evaluated based on their academic performance. Besides that, they also have to do lab activities such as experiment or other science activities. Okay, and the formal science learning at school results in the selection of a major at the university. After they have completed their SPM, you have been through this process. So based on your science results, so it will determine whether you can go to a pure science major, or medical, or engineers, and so forth. There is also non-formal science learning, where the learning is loosely organized, okay, and it is adapted to what the individual needs. It can be taught by advanced learner, peers, or educators or trainer, okay, and learning concentrates more on social skills and focusing on the learner-centered activities. Okay, for example, going for tuition class, okay, so or going to religious class, but in this case for science learning, probably you go for tuition, or you ask someone to train you uh, in the scientific skills. Perhaps you request expert at the university to teach you how to do research or experiment. Okay, so it is um, not following the curriculum. Okay, it is based on the individual needs. So what is actually informal learning? So informal learning is unstructured and unintentional learning. Okay, and most of the time it is out of school learning. It can be spontaneous learning. It is more learner driven and self-directed learning, and it is more enjoyable and relaxing learning. Okay, I'll give you the example later. Okay, why informal science learning is crucial? Yeah, learning science is a very rich, complex, ongoing process that builds over our lifetime, meaning that we will learn and keep learning. Yeah, it's a long life learning. So, learning science informally can take place anytime, anywhere, and often outside classroom. It can also be inside classroom, yeah. So, but most of the time it is outside classroom. So informal learning environments, it can have a different context and setting, yeah, and but it is very relevant to everyday experience. For example, if you go to the museum, zoo, aquaria, probably you're going hiking, or you involve in any environmental programs or any other programs that are rich in science, culture, and many other programs. other examples of informal learning environment, such as after school programs. You have after school club, yeah, or probably you are in a science club. You can also have science media, such as using gaming, simulations, television, radio, or the internet, but focusing on science content. Let's say you watch a crime scene investigation drama or forensic drama or a science fiction movie. They are all considered informal learning, and it is very popular nowadays. And this is also can be used to enhance interest, yeah, student interest. So you can show a science fiction movie in the class or outside class, yeah. So the purpose is actually to give the students the experience, okay, to understand science and try to explore science. What are the characteristics of informal science learning? Okay, here are some of the characteristics. Self-directed is a voluntary, inquiry-driven, where you want to find information. Is open-ended. It is motivational. It's engaging. Of course, it is enjoyable. It's not threatening. Okay, and hands-on. It can be experiential, and of course, it is personal as well as social. One good example of informal science learning is museum visit. Okay, so has been long recognized in which the visitors, they have the opportunity to experience and learn about, for example, artifacts, yeah, the old artifacts, looking at the sizes, ages, looking at probably the history of how the ice age happened in the world. Okay, and in the museum there are repositories for collections of valuable and cherished objects. Yeah, and they can also learn history and relate to science. Okay, so there are some museum where they have interactive activities. Okay, for example, if you uh, if you bring your students to petro science or planetarium, okay, so they can learn more about science, activity in science. But if let's say you just bring them to the museum, okay, even it is more about history, but you can try to relate science in it. Okay, like actually how the how people survive, using old technique, old agricultural technique, for example. So they are, the history of science in the museum. Okay, so perhaps you can arrange your students to have a museum visit. I mean, it's not easy, but it is, very interesting, and you can attract students' attention, especially to learn science. So for museum, okay, there are advantages why you should bring the students to the museum. Okay, it is to nurture curiosity. It can improve motivation and attitudes. It is engaging the students through participation and social interaction. Okay, and there are also enrichment activities. You can bring the students to archaeology museum. Okay, we have also one in USM. Okay, so it is quite interesting. All right, games is also another example of informal learning. Okay, so you can um, ask your students to play scientific games, yeah, for them to understand about a topic, or probably you want them to learn the relationship of interaction of human and animals, yeah, things like that. So games can provide opportunity for the players to learn through virtual experiences, okay? And it can be community driven, where they can share their knowledge. If let's say you have you know how to design a game in Minecraft, for example, so you can develop the game, and the students, they can actually share their knowledge and experience with their friends. And then the games can also be event driven, for example, in science competition, exhibition, robotic, computer program competition. So you can develop, or the students can get involved in this kind of game, where they have highly scientific technology related games. This is an example of science game, where the name of the game is Operation Resilient Planet. So it is a game where the students have to take their role, okay, to play the game, and it is developed by Filament Games for classroom use. But I mean, the students can also play game at home, and they can download this game from National Geographic website. And there are actually many nice and interesting games, yeah, that relate to science content. Here are some websites that the students can explore. It is not limited to this one, but this is some of the games that you can ask your students to explore. Another example of informal science learning is simulation. Okay, so simulations can actually, um, you know, provide a clear overview of the what we call microscopic entities of science, yeah, and it can enhance the students' interest. And then the students can also gain knowledge, okay, they can develop expertise in the computer programming, okay, and they learn the theory and the concepts of science when they use simulation, because as I mentioned just now, simulation provide good illustration at microscopic level. For example, they can look at the movements of ions, or the movements of chromatic or electrons, yeah. And simulation provide experiential learning that is almost similar to the real context. This is example of a simulation website, padcolorado.edu. So the students can explore and learn about ACM base. Okay, there are many content of simulations that available on the website that you can explore and ask your students to try out. There are many examples of informal science learning. For example, if let's say the students would like to come up with a project, for science competition, okay, I mentioned it earlier, or the students can come up with a proposal on a research. They can probably they want to develop a prototype, or they want to develop a product, yeah, so they can do it with their team outside classroom, okay. As I mentioned earlier, you can bring them to planetarium visit, where they can learn about stars, about planets, yeah. Watching video is actually one example of informal learning. You can give some videos for the students to watch, and and then discuss about the content of the video. They can also try to explore photography, probably they snap some photos of the plants and identify the scientific names, yeah, things like that. They can also involve in school community gardening. They can learn about herbs. They can learn about plants, yeah, or they can also involve in uh, the farming as well. Where in one school in Kelantan, actually they involve the students to um, I mean like to plant some um, they can sell, okay, they plant and then they sell, and they develop a good water irrigation treatment to the plant. So the students, they learn on about farming, as well as they can sell and make some money. We are hoping that this kind of activity can create more entrepreneurs, yeah, so you can sell and create job. From informal learning, you can I think open more windows to other opportunities like entrepreneurship and so forth. Alright, what are the benefits of informal science learning? Okay, it provides valuable motivational opportunities for students to learn science. This is very important because we know that many students, they have lack of interest of science because mostly they don't understand about science. Okay, and we want the students to have interest in learning science. We also want them to learn and socially interact with other students. Okay, and they can try to manipulate, they can test, explore, predict, question, observe, and make sense of the natural and physical world when they do the activities. Okay, and students can reflect science as a way of knowing, not just know the process, but know the concept, know about the theory, okay, especially about natural phenomena, and also what they experience in everyday life, they can relate to science. However, there are limitations of informal science learning. Okay, to do outside school activity, probably there is a question of how you are going to supervise your students. Okay, and to get participation, to get students to join the activities might be difficult because it is more voluntary activity. It can take longer hours, for example, for trips or visit, and then you need supervision. You need to make sure that you get permission from the parents, from the school. You need to arrange for transportation, so you have to consider the safety of the students when doing the activity. Okay, the supervision, especially for the students, they are, when they are with their friends, so they are very happy, so they will might not be disciplined during the trip or visit. So it is something that you need to consider. And of course, it incur costs because you have to pay for the transportation, for the tickets, for the food, yeah. And it might involve some bureaucracy and paperwork. Of course, you need to get permission. You need to present the proposal to the principal about the trip or visit, the purpose, the objective, and so forth. So there are some limitations of informal science learning, unless it involves something like you ask the students to watch video or doing group work, um, and that kind of activity that probably not incur cost, yeah. All right, I hope all of you can understand what is informal learning and try to integrate it when you are in the real setting, and try to encourage your students to get involved in informal science activities outside the classroom, even though probably you have done videos and group discussion in the classroom, but try to expand the activities outside classroom. Perhaps the students can come up with um, invention or innovation. Yeah. All right, class. Thank you very much. Please stay safe and take care. Yeah.